Hey, I'm Scott.
And this is Jesse.
Hello. So how's your week, Jesse?
Terrific. I'm excited to be talking about extreme knitting today.
Extreme knitting, that's right.
Yes.
That's a good subject for today.
We're changing the whole subject of the show is now.
That's right. I don't participate anymore because of my injury.
Yes.
But,
extreme knitting injuries are extremely common, I'm afraid to say.
I got some stuff from Blackstone.
Good.
Let's see. The number 2 in the Homecoming series from Orson Scott Card is called The Call of Earth. And it's right here. So, interesting about this series, I don't know, they don't really publicize this. I haven't seen this in a single description from a publisher, but the Homecoming series is actually a science fiction retelling of part of the Book of Mormon. Orson Scott Card is LDS, and anyway, the whole series is 5 volumes long, is a science fiction retelling of part of that of their book of scripture called the Book of Mormon.
So how does that work exactly? Have you read the?
Well, like John Steinbeck wrote East of Eden, and it's kind of a retelling of the Cain and Abel story in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, The Memory of Earth, which is the first volume of this Homecoming series, I read it and really enjoyed it, and of course I live in an LDS community.
Mm-hmm.
So someone mentioned that to me, so I read the book in or the section of the Book of Mormon on which it was based, and it's pretty much the exact same thing. Told in science fiction though. Obviously it's not the same. It is science fiction. In The Memory of Earth, humans have moved to a colony of some type that is not Earth, right? Because, the Memory of Earth, the Call of Earth, it's like, hey, we're going to get to Earth, someday.
That's Eastern United States, right?
You bet. In the Book of Mormon, Israelites come to the New World.
Right.
Right. So anyway, in the science fiction book, in the Memory of Earth and stuff, there's humans have created a colony, and there's a satellite that orbits this colony, and the satellite will actually alter people's behavior. So if someone thinks of something violent to do, the satellite will actually change your behavior subtly so that you forget that you did that, or forget that you thought of that. So the result is a peaceful society, and the problem at the beginning of the book is that the satellite system is failing. Okay, so obviously that's science fiction. None of that's in the Book of Mormon, but the satellite, the satellite talks to Nephi, and basically, in the talking of the satellite to Nephi, that is kind of a parallel to God talking to the prophets in the Book of Mormon, and he has them do pretty much the same things that is in the Book of Mormon.
So, what does this mean? We have to leave the planet and go to another planet, or just move east? Or
Eventually, yeah. Eventually, they do leave, and I don't think that that's a big secret. With the titles of the books, even.
Right.
But it's volumes down the road. There's 5 volumes.
Okay.
But yeah.
Might be interesting. I like Orson Scott Card's.
Yeah, Memory of Earth is an excellent novel. The first one, I really, really liked it. I've read them all.
And you say we got the second one in. How did that happen?
We got the second one. The first one's out for review.
Okay.
Next we have Philip K. Dick, The 3 Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch.
Cool.
Boy, what do you know about that one?
I believe it's one of his later novels. It's kind of one of his, again, another religious novel. is science fiction religion. I'm not sure. I have not read it, so I can't say exactly what it's about. But I believe there's this guy named Palmer Eldritch who is kind of like maybe a faith healer who might have evolved spiritually or something like that. But he uses a conventional media like television and etc. All that sort of thing.
Interesting.
Should be interesting. Philip K. Dick is crazy for religion, and he changed. I believe he changed his religion about 6 or 7 times during his lifetime.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, he was
did
Episcopalian and then Catholic, and then he wanted to become a Jew, and then back to Episcopalian or something like that.
Gosh, I didn't know that.
He's big. He was a really like a lot of guys. He was very interested in the Bible and the religious stories, and just kept finding more and more interesting things in the different sects.
I need to read some more about his life. I mean, there's books out there, just biographies and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Anything on audio? No autobiographies or biographies. No, I don't think he wrote an autobiography. So all of them are about. But there's a few movies and or documentaries, anyways. There's one called "The Gospel According to Philip K. Dick." He had, I guess, in the 70s, he had a religious experience that he was always seeming to having religious experiences throughout his life. But one of them is when he ordered some drugs from the pharmacy, and the girl who came to deliver the drugs, at his door, was wearing a ankh on a chain around her neck. And when he opened the front door to answer it, she said, "Hello, here's your drugs," and he said, "Wow, that's great." And then a pink beam of energy shot out from the ankh and hit him square in the forehead, and he had a religious experience. I'm not sure how she would recall the event, but that's how he recalls it. So next I have 2012, The War for Souls by Whitley Strieber. So it's kind of another religious type of thing, although this one says December 21, 2012, maybe one of the most watched dates in history. Every 26,000 years, Earth lines up with the exact center of our galaxy.
How can it line up with the center of a galaxy?
I'm not sure. At 11:11. Yeah, at 11:11 on December 21st, 2012, this event happens again, and the ancient Mayans calculated that it would mark the end not only of this age, but also of human consciousness as we know it.
I think it's every 53 years for the Mayans, or it's a smaller number than that. But I don't see how you could align with we're orbiting circularly. How can you line up with something unless you're lining up with some other object within the galaxy?
Yeah, I guess
I don't know.
Got me. Got me.
Whitley Strieber did a whole bunch of sort of aliens abducted me novels, right?
Yeah, he did, and he's a talk show host too. He does a radio talk show. I know. Yeah, I've heard. Have you ever heard of Art Bell?
Yeah. Is he like that?
Yeah, so Art Bell, he's just like that.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that doesn't sound like number one on my list to review. So.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting, though, that UFOs and a lot of the paranormal stuff is not really considered part of science fiction?
It's an interesting...
I don't know a lot of UFO abductee aficionados in the science fiction world. Maybe that's just me, but it doesn't seem to be compatible. Even though the Sci-Fi Channel down here in the United States, they to them it's all one thing, but I know that it's really not.
No,
your average science fiction fan is not following the UFO phenomenon.
No, they're more into the slide rules than the bongs, I think.
Exactly.
Not sure. I'm not sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think they're related very much at all. I think they're sort of the opposites of each other.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's not even really fantasy either. But you know what? We have the same thing with the Canadian science fiction channel called Space.
Hmm.
When it first came on, they called it the Imagination Station, and the idea was it would be about fantasy and science fiction, I guess. But they had a lot of conspiracy shows, and there was actually a segment called the Conspiracy Guy, and I'm going, look, conspiracy is a whole subgenre of books, and what's that book? There's a book called Chariots of the Gods ?
Hmm.
Chariots of the Gods ? is in every bookstore, every used bookstore you go to. There's guaranteed to be a copy in there, because it was super popular. But it wasn't super popular with science fiction fans, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
It's just a conspiracy book. But
Right.
it's I guess the idea is it's fringe, maybe. You take two
Yeah.
fringe
Yeah.
elements and you lump them together, and they're both about alien spacemen. There have been a couple, there's been a few novels that have worked it in pretty well as a science fiction element or a fantasy element.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Arthur C. Clarke. Heck, Arthur C. Clarke he kind of bridged the gap there because he had a TV show or something. I can't remember what it was
you're
called.
right.
But
You're right. I didn't even
yep.
think of that. What
The
was that one
Mysterious
called?
Worlds of Arthur C. Clarke or something like that.
Something like that. But I would say that was more of a skeptical show, wouldn't you? I barely remember it.
Well, yes
As
and
opposed
no.
to the
Yes
Leonard
and
Nimoy
no.
one.
No, I mean, yeah, Leonard Nimoy did In Search Of, but he
Yeah.
was just a narrator. He was just a narrator in that.
Right.
He wasn't really a host.
No.
But Arthur C. Clarke, I wouldn't say that was a skeptic show. I mean, he definitely believed in UFOs and stuff like that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm nearly positive. I'll look into that more and see. But I remember a quote from him or something that said, hey, to see UFOs, all you need to do is look up. Stuff like that.
Well, yes, but that argument, I mean, that's the argument I always say too. A UFO, it's just unidentified flying object. Guess what? There's thousands of them. If you're bad at
Mm-hmm.
distinguishing birds from airplanes, you're going to see a lot of UFOs. But
Sure,
that's not
sure.
what most people mean when they say UFO. What they mean is alien spaceship. They
Yeah,
literally
I
think
know
UFO
yeah.
means alien spaceship. Man, have you ever seen a UFO? Yes, I've seen thousands of them, but not the kind you mean.
So we've got two more to talk about. One is Harlan Ellison, On the Road with Ellison, Volume 3, from Deep Shag Records.
That's his own label or something, right?
No, I don't think it's his label. Deep Shag Records, you can go on their website, and they've got other stuff. They've just got the
Okay.
3 Harlan Ellison titles. Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3 of On the Road with Ellison, which is basically, heck, you and I saw him at Worldcon one year.
Mm-hmm.
Basically the same kind of thing as that.
It's
So
just
anyway, I'm
him
really looking forward to
speaking
it.
extemporaneously.
Exactly. Yeah, it's him on the road. He's on doing an appearance somewhere, and they recorded it. It looks like it's actually from 3 places: Colorado Springs, Colorado. It's Colorado College, something he did there in '91.
Mm-hmm.
Baycon '93 in San Jose, California, and the University
That one's
of Denver.
making me hungry.
You bet. So it's a compilation of 3 appearances, from the looks of it. So, yeah, I've been waiting for. I know Blackstone is going to release another volume of his short stories.
Great.
So, yeah, I'm told that it's done and in the can, but they have to release it. So.
They have a lot in the can that they how many titles do they release a month? 6 or something like that. Science
Yeah,
fiction.
something like that.
So yeah, they have a lot already just waiting to go, I guess.
Sure.
But that's good. If they released them all at once, we would never be able to get to them.
That's right.
So how did
Boy,
did this one come unsolicited?
No, I
Shag
wrote and asked for it. Yeah,
that must have been
asked
ages
for it.
ago, though.
No, it's actually just a couple weeks ago.
Oh.
Because, yeah, I don't know. I was ripping some stuff into my iPod, and I came across those two. I have Volume 1 and Volume 2, and put those in. And I said, I think there's a Volume 3. So I looked it up, and there was. And
Cool.
yeah, so, yeah, I'm a big fan of Harlan Ellison.
Me too.
And one more in the new arrival category is Flashforward by Robert J. Sawyer. Comes to us from Audible.
Just in time for some
And now
exciting news about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. This is I did not know this. I'm looking at the Audible page right now, and the publisher is listed as Blackstone Audio.
Really?
It is. Yes.
Are you sure that's not a mistake? Because I thought that was Audible Frontiers.
Yeah, I thought
you would
it was
think that
too.
they would know, but maybe they
Yeah.
somehow got scooped.
Right. Yeah, because I know a lot of their exclusive titles have been from Macmillan. So.
No,
maybe,
I believe that all of his books got pinched up by Audible Frontiers itself. I thought that's how that happened.
Okay. Yeah, I can.
Who's the narrator?
A fellow named Mark Deakins. Someone that's not a familiar name to me.
Never heard of him.
Ah.
How would you change your life if you knew what your life was going to be like, or lack thereof, a few years down the road?
Wow.
It's kind of a neat idea for SF.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I totally enjoy Robert J. Sawyer. I mean, my first exposure to him was Calculating God.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the first novel I'd ever read in which the aliens are the ones who believe in God and can't believe that there are humans that don't.
Yeah, that was a pretty good twist on it, right?
It was a really good twist on it, and I really like that book. And that's available on audio too, also from Audible. I'm pretty sure that's an Audible Frontiers title.
Yeah, I think so.
But it was fantastic. It was read by Jonathan Davis.
Mm-hmm.
So, highly recommend that one.
Yeah, I quite like that one too. Makes me want to go visit the Royal Ontario Museum.
Yeah.
When Steen went to visit Toronto, I said, I've heard great things about the Royal Ontario Museum. You better go to it. And he says, yeah, I'll get to it. And I said, no, seriously, if you have any spare time, go check it out. And when he finally went, he was saying, it was awesome. I should have brought my camera. And you don't usually say, wow, that museum is so exciting. You usually say, it was all right. But he said, he could have spent a lot more time there. So the Calculating God is set in the Royal Ontario Museum.
Hey, we're quoted on the Calculating God page at Audible.
Oh, really? What's it say?
Yeah. Jonathan Davis is one of our very best narrators, and this is a fine performance. I was rapt the entire time and even near tears at one moment in the book.
Who wrote that?
Who did that?
How dare they?
Fantastic.
Cool.
Robert J. Sawyer's latest novel is being serialized in analog right now. The very first part is out.
Wake.
In the latest issue. Yep, it's called Wake. And it's the first of a trilogy, I understand.
And I think the very coolest part is I believe it's going to be adapted to audio by the CBC.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it's going. I think it's going to be abridged, which is the bad news, but it should show up on podcast as well, which is very cool. Between the Covers podcast, we'll have it, and it's going to be airing on CBC Radio 1 all across Canada.
So they'll record an audiobook and just broadcast it?
Yep.
CWC does that?
CBC does that, yes.
Or
they've
CBC.
got a weekly...
I think what did I say? CWC. CWC is a video rental place in my town.
Okay. What does that stand for?
I don't know. 'Cause we care, something like that.
'Cause we care video?
Yeah, something like that.
Well, could be. CBC stands for Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Newly completed by Julie at Forgotten Classics podcast is The Wonder Stick, which is very, very early science fiction novel. Actually, the first novel written by Stanton A. Koblenz. He wrote I actually made a subpage for him because it was so easy. A science fiction page for him. He's only got 2 titles released on audio. One by Blackstone and the other by Julie. And what's interesting is it's their first and last novel.
Oh.
So it's it covers the outside and the inside, and now we just have to fill in all the middle. Wonder Stick came out in I guess the 1920s, 1929, and it's a prehistorical novel, which is really a sort of a forgotten branch of science fiction, which I'm really a big fan of. I guess the last one that everybody sort of glommed onto was the Clan of the Cave Bear. You know what I mean?
I do. Uh-huh.
Novels about the earliest of humanity. And
I actually listened to the Clan of the Cave Bear on audio. It's one of the first ones I heard.
Probably unabridged too, right?
It was unabridged, and it was on those book cassettes where you flip them over.
Yeah, that was Brilliance. Early stuff.
Brilliance Audio. Yep. Checked it out from the library in Tucson, Arizona.
How did you happen to be there at the time?
Oh, that's where I went to college.
Ah.
Yeah. So.
Yep. So Clan of the Cave Bear was, I guess, about the transition from Neanderthal to, I don't know, Cro-Magnon or something like that, and just about what life is like when you're on your quest for fire or whatever.
That's pretty much what it was about.
Yeah, I remember it sort of being very very what do you call that? Episodic in a sort of a. And I'm probably recalling the movie as well, but this is not quite like that. This is more of like an adventure story, but sort of done as a juvenile. It's sort of like an early juvenile novel, with the main character being a caveman named Rue, who is like the nerd of his clan of the Cave Bear, and his adventure is to sort of invent all of the technology that we would later come to call, the prehistorical human technology. Instead of just hanging out in the cave all day and grabbing things and eating them with your hands, he's going out there and thinking of new technologies to improve people's lives. But he doesn't get a lot of respect, and so he has to go out from his community and prove himself, and then come back and triumph. And it's very old-fashioned in the dialogue, I think. So one of the things that was kind of throws you off is the when individual characters aren't speaking, but when a group is speaking, what their opinions are. You don't get a varied range of opinions. You just sort of like get a Greek chorus of "This is what we're saying," and they all sort of talk that way. And that's sort of could be that's the way humans actually used to talk in Greek chorus, but it just sort of feels like strange, sort of primitive early storytelling by Koblenz rather than. So that's sort of jarring. But other than that, it's actually quite an entertaining little romp, and I can really see why Julie and her family are really into the book. It's I guess it was first published in 1929, but it was out for a while in the 1940s, and it looks to be public domain. But I'd never even heard of it before it got podcast, and I think it's well worth a listen.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, I saw on her blog that her next book is going to be The Secret Adversary by Agatha Christie. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to keep up with it.
Yeah, there was some very upset Agatha Christie estate people because people are podcasters are starting to record the early Agatha Christie books because they're in the public domain in most countries, or at least in the United States in many cases. And so there was a bit of a kerfuffle when I believe the first book by Agatha Christie, which is eluding me, the name of it is eluding me right now, but it was going to be hosted on LibriVox, and then they got a cease and desist order, I guess, from the estate of Agatha Christie, saying that in Canada, even though it's not hosted, the files are not hosted in Canada because the the man who created LibriVox lives in Canada, and it's not out of copyright in Canada that they couldn't host it. So I believe Maureen O'Brien from the Marie Electric's podcast is doing the first Agatha Christie novel, and this is going to be Julie doing the second one. So it's pretty cool.
Wow. It says the first novel is called The Mysterious Affair at Styles.
Yeah,
that's her first book, published in 1920.
It's a Hercule Poirot book. Yeah. And it's one of the ones that is told from the perspective of Hastings, which is interesting. I believe it's third person, and then Hastings sort of takes the lead. Huh. I was into Agatha Christie for quite a while, but she's got her formula, and it becomes repetitive. And there's nothing wrong with it, but it is ultra repetitive, I find. Last night I recorded another podcast. Sorry I can't be faithful to you, Scott, but I have a wandering eye.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry about that. In fact, it was a group thing. I know.
Oh, dear.
I'm not trying to get freaky on you here, but yeah. I was watching movie The Thing. The people from Hey Want to Watch a Movie. And that's actually science fiction's version of 10 Little Indians.
Oh.
And then there were none, because it's about 10 guys stuck in an Antarctic research station while they're getting picked off one by one or two by two.
Yeah,
and they don't know who the murderer is.
That's right.
Turns out it was the bug.
That's right. Good stuff.
Yeah, terrific movie. I told you about the Stanton A. Koblenz subpage, which includes the only 2 audiobooks published by him so far, or published from his book so far. I also added a couple of new author pages, including one about, let's see, H. Beam Piper. I guess I added that last week, and I was just listening last night to Tony Smith's Starship Sofa podcast, and he does a whole show on H. Beam Piper, so that's worth checking out if you're into him. I'd love to list that show on this subpage about H. Beam Piper, but Tony, I believe, does not keep his stuff in his feed for very long, so by the time I get it posted in there, it might be already out of the feed. So go download that real quick.
Will do.
Pretty interesting guy.
Yeah.
And I think I posted another one. We're getting a lot of people. So sort of done slowly, one at a time. John W. Campbell. Yeah, actually I did that in anticipation of watching The Thing. And he's more of an editor than a writer, but there's a few things out by him. He had an audio or radio drama series in the 1950s that he ran.
Yeah, I did know that.
There's a few MP3s available, and some of them we don't even know who wrote them. We don't know when they were broadcast exactly. But some of them they're not too bad. Paul Anderson, Robert Silverberg. There's a Philip K. Dick one. That one is harder to find an MP3 of, but there are some out there, and they're well worth a listen. It's kind of interesting to hear Campbell talk too. He's such an influential guy in science fiction. There's a audiobook under production called The Black Star Passes, which is actually a collection of 3 Campbell stories that are sort of tied together with the same recurring characters in them. And that's actually still in production, but should be the first third of it is out, I believe. And that was one of the SFF Audio Challenge titles. So that's going to win somebody a prize when it's completed. And the last one on the list is the 2002 adaptation of Who Goes There, which got turned later into the movie, The Thing. But that was one of my favorite audio dramas ever released, or radio dramas. Mike Walker is sort of a big name in BBC radio drama, and he did the adaptation. It's set in Antarctica, same as the book, or the short story. And the only difference really is that it's a bunch of British guys instead of a mixed American group. But that used to be available via the Zombie Astronaut, but that file is no longer online. So somebody out there has access to it. Send me a link. I'll link it up. It's from BBC 4. It might be on the there's a public radio torrent site. I can't remember the name of it offhand, but it might be on there. But we don't normally link to torrents, so they don't tend to last that long. So we'll wait for a more stable source. Did you read Kurt's review of Something Wicked This Way Comes?
Oh yeah, of course, you bet. Yeah, he's so good.
Yeah, he's a great writer. I really like reading his reviews, especially when they're actually negative. This one's a very positive review, but I find just reading a Kurt review makes me have a sort of an extra kick in my step. It's just he's very insightful, very thoughtful. And he's sort of got that wicked sense of humor that he just doesn't let something go if it's not working.
You bet. It's good stuff.
I haven't heard that much of the Colonial Radio Theater guys, but he seems to like this pretty well. How about we talk about Dean Koontz's new book?
Oh yeah, go ahead. I haven't listened to any of it, but
okay. Oh, you haven't heard the?
No, I saw
excerpt?
Your post. I saw your post, but no, I didn't listen to it.
Oh my God. I guess it was earlier this year or something like that. I was visiting the Dean Koontz website. He used to have a very brief podcast that was actually pretty interesting. Dean Koontz is a really interesting guy, but on the Dean Koontz website. There was something that sort of was, I guess, alluding to this new book, which is called Bliss to You. It's quoted as, this inspiring collection of observations from author Dean Koontz and his departed beloved canine friend will offer heartfelt insights from the vantage point of doggy heaven. And that's exactly what it's about. It's written as if Dean Koontz's dog is still alive. Trixie, his dog, is still alive, who looks to be a yellow lab. And it's completely nuts.
Oh, wow. Well, that's cool. I need to listen to that.
Completely nuts. The way we can tell the dog is talking is because dogs, like cats, have terrible grammar. They have wonderful hearts that, only think wonderful things and want to go on walks all the time. But we can tell that they're dogs and cats because they have terrible grammar. But
I
I'm
have
just wondering why.
I have a really good memory. Dean Koontz audiobooks are normally just fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of them that I remember really well is called Dragon Tears.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just a fantastic audiobook. And,
What was that one about?
It was about, it's about a bad guy. What can I
As
say?
they usually are,
There was a
yes.
guy who, he basically, as I remember it, and it's been a long time, but he had powers of being able to project himself to places.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just an evil guy. I mean, he would kill people and stuff. And the story was about these two police officers that are trying to catch him,
Mm-hmm.
right? But one of the things that made me think about this right now is that there was sections of the book written, or
From the
chapters
dog's
written
perspective.
from a dog's point of view, yeah. And he just
Yeah.
kept saying, good dog, and I remember that in my head. I'm trying to remember who the narrator was. I know his voice, but J. Sanders, J.O. Sanders.
Yeah, he's great.
It's fantastic audiobook, and they re-released it recently, so it's out there.
Who's that? Who published that?
Let's see.
I remember
Simon and Schuster Audio.
Yeah, that would be a good republish of anything. Dean Koontz is usually quite enjoyable. I cannot imagine that this will be, given that it's like, is this a self-help book? Is this? I think he's just gone crazy for his. Like, I understand his dog's dead and he's upset about that, but can't he find like, the publishers need to say, dude, we'll publish anything you put out, but couldn't you make a fiction book? Because this does not sound like, this sounds like just the publisher cashing in on the Dean Koontz name rather than, and sort of his grief over his deceased dog, rather than, I can't imagine in the grand canon of Dean Koontz books when they go to make that list, that this is going to be very high on the list. This is going to be down the bottom, is my guess. Not having read it, but having listened to the excerpt and sort of got the idea beforehand, it doesn't sound right to me.